Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. My name is JP, this is Kevin.
Great to see you, really amazingly great to be back in sunny Salzburg.
Fino.
Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to discussing some English football.
Yes, we're back and the Premier League is back also. It feels like it only ended last week, but we're back again this Saturday. Transfers, a lot have gone through already. It feels like it's all been so sudden, lads, really. It just feels like it only ended. Like the Community Shield was only last week and now here we are again. And, you know... Well,
I know. For me, I mean, it's Scottish football has started up on the 1st of August, so it's really been a full summer of sport, despite the Olympics not going ahead. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing some English football, and yeah, seeing some new faces in the English teams. Definitely some nice investments made, and hopefully that continues on until when the window shuts in October.
I mean, I think the point you make there is actually. It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because Liverpool, I know I always talk about Liverpool, but Liverpool obviously,
really,
after 30 years, win the title.
Was it not 40 years?
And then you almost have no time to enjoy it, because I know we're going to talk about transfers, and I know what you're going to say, or I think I know what you're going to say. But it's like, oh God, it's just like, could we not just have had some peace of enjoying the title before everyone thinks about the doom and gloom of not signing anyone?
Yeah, it's been a long time for Liverpool, and I suppose there was really no time to bask in the glory. There was no... whole summer of who they're going to buy and will they do it again? And it's just because we just basically run into the end of the Premier League to the Community Shield to these friendlies or glorified friendlies, the National League, the Nations League, these internationals, and we're right back now into the Premier League. So we start back on Saturday. We'll run through the games in a couple of seconds. We're going to have a look at we're going to give you our season predictions. So basically who we think will finish in the top four and who will go down. Before that, we're going to have a look through the transfers that have happened so far and the few that might happen. I'm going to start first with Arsenal. Arsenal signed the Brazilian guy called Gabriel, who cost £27 million from Lille. Dani Ceballos from Real Madrid, who is a loan. He was there last season. But for me, there's a couple of the players that stick out among the transfers of the season and, who's going to be hit or miss and who'll be a flop and who'll be a success. I'm really surprised that Chelsea let Willian go to Arsenal, who's a major Premier League rival. Okay, he's 32. But the guy is so flexible. He can play across either wings. He can play in the number 10 role. 47 games last season, 9 assists, 11 goals. He's got a great engine. He's brilliant from a dead ball, free kicks, penalties. Did he actually score a goal that won Liverpool the league from the penalties? What was it, Kev?
I think it was maybe Hazard.
No. Hazard's playing for Real Madrid. I'm pretty sure that when Chelsea beat Manchester City to win the Premier League for Liverpool, last season, that it was Willian.
You've taken us off on a wild tangent.
Yeah, I'll bow to your superior knowledge.
Yeah, we're going to have to go back through the record books on that one.
Yeah, I think Willian's going to be a huge success for Arsenal, and I'm really surprised Chelsea let him go. Okay, Chelsea have invested well themselves, and you can tell us a little bit about that, Fino.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to Willian, I think it's interesting that they let him go, but I also think it's interesting that they let him go to Arsenal. There's already been... Carlton Cole came out in the press this week saying that Abramovich wouldn't sell anybody to Tottenham, and yet he's happy to sell a player to Arsenal. And I think that's quite an interesting dynamic. Obviously, Czech's gone as well. I think the only player that went between Chelsea and Tottenham whilst Abramovich has been in power is Kudicini, and that was on a free transfer. But if we look at Willian's one of my favourite players in the league. He's so direct. He's just, he's got bags of pace and he's got the skill to match. And hopefully we'll see him turning defenders inside out for weeks to come.
I think there's one other interesting thing about Arsenal is... a lot of Arsenal fans will tell you that they're excited about one of the backroom signings. So they've hired this guy called Georgeson, who is a set piece expert from Brentford of all places. But Arsenal, who struggled all the time last season on set pieces, they think they're gonna crack it with this guy. I just wanted to mention that as we talk about these marquee signings and something like that, but very occasionally just an odd one from behind the scenes can make all the difference.
Definitely.
Yeah, Willian, big surprise. Of course, leaving Arsenal, there's nobody really that stands out. I mean, they've kept Aubameyang amid interest from Real Madrid and Barcelona. Okay, the season's not finished yet, but it looks like he's confirmed that he's going to stay on at Arsenal. And like they're on a bit of a run of form because, like I said, the season hasn't really ended, and they beat Manchester City surprisingly in the FA Cup semi-final, won the FA Cup. They've won the Community Shield, beat Liverpool after a penalty shootout, which was, a pretty exciting game as far as Community Shields go, even though there was no fans there. But they're in a run of form, and Willian is a very good addition, I think.
Yeah, I like them. Why not? I mean, they like you say finished the season really well. Looked really good against Liverpool, certainly for most of the game, and then held on really well. Great, nerveless in the penalty shootout. I mean, why not? They could be another team challenging for top four, no problem.
Now I know Frank Lampard is looking to build his own dynasty and his own team, and he's brought these guys in, and but surely a bit of experience in the dressing room, and a guy that is, like I said, the set piece king at Chelsea. Like they've got money. Abramovich has money. They could have kept him on for another season.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Chelsea, you look at Chelsea and you look at the amount of money that they've spent. It's definitely they're the big spenders. All the big transfer sagas have kind of been around Chelsea. Werner was at Liverpool, was at Chelsea. He ultimately opted for Chelsea. Havertz is now done and dusted. That was the protracted saga. They've brought in some shrewd signings, I think. Sarr from Nice, I think, is a really interesting signing. Young centre back, strong in defence. Thiago Silva alongside him potentially. I mean, bags of experience, and potentially unlucky, not to take home the Champions League as winning captain only a few weeks ago. And then you've got the players like Ziyech, who I think is much of a direct replacement for Willian as you can get. That kind of attacking midfield, out wide player, somebody really exciting that can get the fans when they're back in their seats at Stamford Bridge onto their feet.
I think they're going to score a ton of goals, aren't they? I think how they perform in defence, how they're able to kind of finish off games, close down games, don't know about that quite yet, but they're going to score a shit ton of goals and they're going to be fun to watch. And the thing is, if it turns out that they're not really fun to watch, if it all goes pear-shaped, then that's going to be a drama in and of itself worthy of Albert Square.
Worthy of Albert Square. Yeah, certainly, Kev. I mean, if there is anybody that's sticking out right now, and like you said, Fino, the transfer window is not over yet, and Man United will invest, and Tottenham will probably invest even more. But at the minute, if there is a team that's going to step up and compete with Man City and Liverpool, for me, it's definitely Chelsea, judging on what they've spent. I think Arsenal will be there for a while, but evidently, as you said, Fino, about the depth, will they have it? I don't, unless they invest in January, or again, maybe the rest of this window. I don't think they'll hang around till the end with the rest of them. Now, for me, the big one that sticks out for everybody, obviously, is James Rodriguez. James Rodriguez is playing for Everton. This is absolute bonkers. This guy, at the World Cup in 2014, won the Golden Boot. 6 goals in 5 games as he shot Colombia to the World Cup quarter-final. Now, a very successful player everywhere he's been. He's won the league, I think, 3 times at Porto. Then he went to Monaco. And then just after that World Cup, Real Madrid, of course, as you well know, Kev, have a habit of investing in a Galactico every time there's a World Cup or a Euros or every season. Keep the fans happy, keep the King of Spain happy. And Carlo Ancelotti brought him in. And he had a really good first half of the season under Ancelotti. His assist rate, his goals, was pretty impressive. And then Zidane came in and the form just dropped. So he's loaned out to Bayern under Carlo Ancelotti again, where he's, the stats are not too bad at all. The guy's only 29, really, so he's still got another 4 or 5 years. He's a highly skilled footballer, dead ball, penalties, free kicks. He's a world star, really, but you ask yourself, what the hell is he doing at Everton?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Like, say, he's got a manager there who understands him, who loves him, will know how to get the best out of him. Everton are a funny side, aren't they? I mean, they've got really lots of young potential. They've got good players. They've got Richarlison, don't forget, as well. You always sort of think maybe this will be the year. There's always a joke that people always say they win the transfer window on Merseyside. There was this great line doing the rounds in Liverpool that he's like the most popular person on Merseyside now because he's got 44 million Instagram followers or something compared to Liverpool's 30 or whatever it is or whatever. That's been like a real nice sort of one of those boosts for the Everton fans and stuff like that. Do you know? I would love it if he turns it on, because I've been a fan, since that World Cup, since we all fell in love with him or whatever. So it would be great to see, wouldn't it?
I think, when you look at James Rodriguez, he's one of the world's best players, and you want the world's best players to be playing in the Premier League. Unfortunately, it looks like Messi's not going to make it to Manchester, so James will be a nice addition to Everton. I've got them as kind of my dark horses for getting into a European spot, because they've got the talent there, and it's just not performed. What they do need is they need goals, and hopefully Rodriguez can help with that. Hopefully Alan from Napoli can help with that. But they spent the best part of 65 million last season on Moise Kean and Alex Iwobi, and they didn't perform quite as well. There was injuries, etc. So in some ways, you're hoping that actually those two signings become 4 signings because of last season's signings, and hopefully it really rejuvenates the place. Because I'm sure if you're a young Everton player and you're looking around the training ground and you see James Rodriguez, you're going to be putting in that extra effort at training.
Yeah, I reckon so. But can we not just call him James?
Well,
can we call the Arsenal number 14 Terry Henry? Really good signing for Everton. Haaland too. And they've shipped a few players out. Leighton Baines has retired. Remember, at one stage he was nailed on for Man United in England, and he just never really happened for him. Morgan Schneiderlin is gone as well. But this is really, it could be the start of a hallmark of an Ancelotti team. It would be great if someone like Everton could come up and be the dark horses, because they've no shortage of money. Was it 2 or 3 seasons ago they spent a lot of money, a lot of players in, and it just kind of fell apart.
It'd be great in a way, JP, but at the same time, it wouldn't be that great.
Yeah. I mean, he's a world-class manager, Ancelotti. I got a lot of time for him, and Everton are really lucky. It's still surreal to think that Carlo Ancelotti is manager of Everton. It's like, okay, Arsenal, I think, Arteta done a great job so far, but someone like Arsenal, I thought Ancelotti would have went there, but
it's interesting. I look at Everton, and I sometimes wonder whether or not there's that big team mentality around a team like Everton at the moment. If you think, I think over the last 20 years, I think of that Moyes team that got top 4 and took them into the Champions League, or the qualifiers, I suppose. And I just wonder whether or not the team or the club as a whole has the mentality to really push forward, rather than, you look at a Chelsea or you look at an Arsenal or even a Tottenham, where they feel like a big club. They feel like they're going to win, and if they don't win, then it's a catastrophe. Whereas with Everton, if they get a draw away to Arsenal, is that a good thing?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And honestly, if I had to bet, I'd say probably not going to be 4th, 5th. I think, if I honestly, maybe the lower bit of the top half, I think is probably a bit more realistic. But like I say, excited to see James.
I mean, there's still a few weeks to go left in the Champions League, or sorry, in the in the transfer window. But I really like Calvert-Lewin as well. I think he's got a big future in the game, and he can benefit from someone like James Rodriguez or Alan, and these guys knocking the ball into him, Richarlison as well. So yeah, Everton definitely have stood out. I really expected Newcastle to be standing out at this stage of the transfer window, but
for what reason?
Well, because I thought that the takeover was going to happen, Fino. Like for a while, for about 5 minutes, and then reality kicked in. Every year, it's the same thing with Newcastle. But I just actually did believe, because the deposit was paid, and I started to dream about these huge signings that were going to come through the door, but didn't happen. However, Steve Bruce, even though I will admit that I didn't want him last season, I thought Rafa should have stayed, and give Rafa the money instead. He spent 40 million on Joe Linton, which was, God, let's not go there. But funnily enough, Steve Bruce has made Newcastle hard to beat. They stayed up quite comfortably without, setting the world on light. Newcastle have signed 3 players. They've signed an Irishman, an Englishman, and a Scotsman.
Well, they'd be very welcome here when we have a weekend off.
They will. And I'll start with a small little story surrounding the Irishman, Jeff Hendrick. Hendrick at Derby was on fire, and he got his move then to Burnley. Euro 2016, he was one of the stars for Ireland, and playing alongside Wes Hoolahan. Wes Hoolahan, you may remember from Norwich City. Trapattoni never picked him for Ireland, but Martin O'Neill did. And for me, he's one of the most comfortable players on the ball, brilliant on the ball, but just running off course for him. And I was at an Ireland away game just after the Euros in Belgrade, And I went to the team hotel to pick up my tickets. Had a couple of pints, and I went to the loo. On the way in, who walks out? Only my idol, Wes Houlihan. And I'm kind of starstruck, and I look him in the eye, and I say, "All right, Jeff." As in Jeff Hendrick, yeah. That's my most embarrassing moment as an Ireland football fan. They've also signed Callum Wilson, who is a proven Premier League goal scorer, £20 million, really good business, I think, for Newcastle from Bournemouth. Callum Wilson, he's typical Newcastle number 9 style. Now, there's even talk about stripping Joe Linton of the number 9 shirt and giving it to Callum Wilson. We've also signed a Scotsman, Ryan Fraser. I don't know a whole lot about him. I know he does perform well for Bournemouth, did last season alongside Wilson on that left or right flank. He plays both wings, right, Fino?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a tricky wide player. My only concern around Ryan Fraser in the Premier League is a character concern in the fact that he didn't extend his Bournemouth contract because he thought that he was going to get that big money move, which, I'm sorry to say, Newcastle I don't think is that big money move that he was being touted for. I think he was looking to maybe go to North London, but I think he's a good addition. I think Newcastle have almost in the polar opposite ways, and I'm not comparing the two teams at all, but almost in the opposite way of Frank Lampard. Steve Bruce has set his team out to be stout in defence, and now he's sorting out the forward areas, whereas Frank Lampard's gone, okay, cool, let's score as many goals as possible,
well, there's
and
we'll
worry about that.
A huge difference there. First of all, Newcastle are a lot bigger club than Bournemouth. And secondly, Frank Lampard had 500 million to spend. We've got, like I said, the Irishman, Englishman, Scotsman. Jeff Hendrick was a free, Ryan Fraser's a free, and £20 million for Callum Wilson, fighting off Aston Villa, who came in with a late bid of 21, but he had his heart set on Newcastle. I'd love to see Steve Bruce with 500 million to spend, but sadly, it hasn't really happened.
There's been a bit of talk about Harry Wilson as well, so it could even be a Welshman coming as well. So Newcastle have reportedly been in for him, so yeah, get the full set.
Wow. There was also a centre-half or two as well announced, but I think Newcastle are pretty strong in defence. And look, going into it, I'm actually happy enough, considering, what's happened. When the news broke that this takeover was not going to happen, I dreaded it, and I was delighted to see Callum Wilson come through the door. So, I'll take that, and I think that we should have enough now to be safe. But saying that, there's now Christian Atsu, the brilliant Saint Maxime. There's talk of Matt Ritchie going the other way, going to Bournemouth. Who knows? So, Kev, Liverpool, who have you signed?
Well, I don't know. Like I said right at the start, it's almost quite tiring, because we had this success that everyone had been dreaming of and everyone had been, looking forward to so much. And then, about 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, who are we going to sign? It's like I really wish we'd have had a full, long, hot summer, just to enjoy it a little bit more. Listen, I don't know. I've said this before. I don't care in a way. Liverpool won the league, and not just that, have been like such an amazing club to watch for the last couple of years. I think this is the team that learned how to win. No matter what last season. I think they're going to retain that at least to some extent. I appreciate that it would have been nice to have a little bit of magic or something like that joining the team, but I think it's a very good team. And I think there's no reason why they're not going to be challenging again, that's all. When
you look at the players that have gone out from Liverpool, they've not lost anybody in a major way. Lovren, Lallana, these kind of players were fringe players, and I know that Lovren had the Liverpool fans had maybe a love-hate relationship with Dejan Lovren, but I think it would be interesting to see how Liverpool shape up with the loss of somebody like a Gini Wijnaldum to Barcelona. It seems like that's going to happen. I don't think it's not going to be the make or break signing or sale, but if you start to dismantle that team piece by piece, you don't know what knock-on effects those have in the dressing room. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Liverpool approach it.
I think all the talk in Liverpool, like among Liverpool fans, the last couple of days has been this blog Swiss Ramble, who on the guy on Twitter broke down Liverpool finances and really explained why Liverpool have not been in this position to spend hundreds of millions of pounds on players. And it is, it can be frustrating because you sort of think the club's really incredibly well run, makes a profit, enjoyed all the success, bags of Champions League money coming in. Why aren't they out there? Why didn't they sign Timo Werner, who apparently, Klopp wanted? Why didn't they go on and challenge for some of these other, marquee signings that other players have won? And he just explained it really in a way that that because the club are so carefully run, and because the wage bill has gone up so much, it means that they just don't have that level of cash kicking around that other clubs have. And when I say the wage bill's gone up again, it's a positive sign in a way, because a lot of these players who Liverpool signed, Liverpool, when they needed to spend a lot of money 2 years ago, right, they really did spend a lot of money, right? Let's not forget to really finish off that.
Alisson, Van Dijk,
Alisson and Van Dijk. I mean, that was like, that was just like, who are the best players in those two positions that are available? Let's go out and sign those two players. And they signed them when they were very, very, very good players, right? Absolutely, everyone agreed. Now they're great players, and it's the same with some more of those. The Mohamed Salah and so on. You look at those players who came in when they were very, very good. Now they're excellent. Someone made the point. I think it was on this blog, or people reacting to it, that what they've had to do is they've almost had to re-sign their own players. And we saw that. Bringing this all the way around to Lionel Messi, who you mentioned earlier on, what Barcelona were faced with every single season was they essentially had to re-sign him. He had to sign a new contract with the player every single season on massively more money. What Liverpool have had to do is, as those players have gone from very good players to great players who everyone would want, they've had to re-sign those players on longer contracts. And I think it can be frustrating to think like that. No one wants to be that kind of expert in football finances, which means you have to think about amortization of players and all this kind of stuff. But it does make that sense in Liverpool's case anyway. So they just don't have the hundreds of millions of euros to kick around. But I think there are still reasons to be cheerful. I'll say it like that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a positive that you're not worried or concerned about losing one of those three strikers, for example, to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona. On the other hand, Kev, is there a concern about a lack of motivation from these guys because they've won everything in the last two seasons?
I don't think there will be, just because of Klopp. I think if you were looking for one manager who'll make sure that that's not the case, you've got someone like Jurgen Klopp to keep them on their toes. And I suppose the only thing I'd say is, we're all waiting to see maybe a Thiago deal goes through, right? Thiago Alcantara, who's a very, very skillful player, was probably a little bit older than the Liverpool hierarchy would like, and that's maybe why they're not prepared to splash, what the money that Bayern Munich want for him. But, even though there hasn't been that sort of amazing signing, I think you're still looking at the Liverpool and looking, okay, so, Minamino came in at the very start of the year, very, very quiet start. He was on lockdown on his own in Liverpool. I think it was pretty hard for him actually, but has shown signs in pre-season that he might be able to contribute a bit more. I know we always say this, but Naby Keita, who came in as well, been quiet for most of those 2 years that he's been there, but a lot of people very, very confident about him delivering more. And then from the other side, you've got the younger players like Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Nico Williams, maybe. I just sort of think there is a little bit of a mix of young players coming through and fringe players who might still be able to contribute. And I just sort of think, as a Liverpool fan, you've got to be optimistic. It's been great. The last 2 years, as I've said before, been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, maybe it all goes pear-shaped this year. Maybe they're back down to 6th or 7th. Maybe there just isn't that star quality. Maybe, Mo Salah looked like he was struggling to find the target at the end of last season. Maybe he has a bit of a drought at the start. We'll talk about the first fixtures coming up. So maybe that will happen. But on the other hand, hasn't it just been so fantastic to see Liverpool do this well, when you're a Liverpool fan, of course? And I just can't wait for this to start. It's the same squad of players, some young players coming in. Can't wait.
I think something that you talked about there is that succession planning. It's a well-run club, and actually that then means that you don't have to do what Chelsea are doing, which is spend half £5 billion on players in one summer, because you've got players like Curtis Jones, players like Harvey Elliott, who came in at the end of last season and really, they maybe didn't hold their own in every single game, but they're getting experience, and then they'll have 30, 40, 50 Premier League appearances off the bench and starts here and there, and then you're a seasoned Premier League pro.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. It could all go wrong for them as well. No one's sort of saying these are bang on. We've been through that with fringe players before, and you sort of young players, and we've all been there, and it just hasn't happened for them. No one's putting pressure on those players. It's just more like, I think there is that bit of competition coming through.
But if you did sign Timo Werner, wouldn't that put a lot more pressure and motivate the likes of a Salah, or Firmino, or Mane?
Perfect world, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you spoke to any Liverpool fan, they'd sort of say they'd love to see another centre forward. Someone. There is a lot of hope invested again in another player I didn't mention, Ryan Brewster. Who's been around for a little bit, enjoyed a nice loan spell at the end of last season with Swansea. Looks like he's going to score goals. We saw him against Salzburg score a couple of belters actually. So you never know. But yeah, I mean, in all honesty, of course, would love to see us sign a 25 goal a season centre forward.
I just read today on the Mag, which is the Newcastle website, that Mr. Brewster might be on his way to Newcastle on loan for the season. So that would be great for us if that happened. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Liverpool are the champions. They've walked the league last season, scoring a bunch of goals. Great to watch. It's up to the rest of them to play catch up. For me, Man City not by much, but the rest of them, Chelsea are closer now. I think. We'll find out. But look, if Liverpool need a player in January, I'm sure they'll buy him.
I think that's true, and as we said, like there's a month to go in this transfer window, and we're going to learn a lot in these first 2 or 3 games of the season, I think. And I think if there is that need, I think, like you say, the club are pretty well run, and I think they'll address that need if they have to. But I'm sure they would love not to.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, right. Moving on. Is there any more transfers you'd like to talk about, guys? Anybody else stick out?
I mean, Man City, obviously they've lost David Silva. They've not really done an awful lot. I mean, Nathan Ake and Torres from Valencia. I think that this season Pep is going to go all out for the Champions League. So I don't necessarily know whether or not City will be that competitive domestically. Man United still the Sancho deal. Will they, won't they? Who knows? West Ham haven't signed anybody really. A great consternation from the West Ham fans. They've already sold Grady Diangana to West Brom, which caused huge uproar. And it feels like West Ham are in a place where they're so supposedly affected by COVID that they're going to have to potentially sell Declan Rice to fund any incomings. And it's just really not a great position to be in, a few days out from the start of the season, and there's glaring holes in the team, and you know that there's glaring holes in the team, and you've just not got any rumours of any signings. Yeah,
David Silva is a huge loss to Man City, but I think a bigger loss, and maybe longer term, is Leroy Sané, because a couple of seasons ago he was just absolutely out of this world, ripping it up on the left wing. They got £55 million from Bayern from. I don't know much about this guy from Valencia, Torres. Nathan Ake, 41 million. Like, I know football has been crazy, as in a goalkeeper's going for 80 million, but is Nathan Ake worth, 41 million?
He's still young. I mean, people forget that he's still kind of, he's coming into his peak years, and he's played 150 times in the Premier League. That's a huge amount of experience, and you see it all the time with players that don't adjust to the league correctly, or they take time to adjust. Ake's probably a player that can slot right into Man City, whether he starts or whether he's on the bench or as part of a rotation. And I think he can provide some solid cover for Man City in a position which they desperately needed some cover.
Big year for Foden maybe as well, right? So been in the news a little bit this week, but
just a little, yeah.
I think maybe he gets a chance. Maybe we'll see Foden come through. Like you said before, I'm sure they're going to be very competitive, right? I don't think there's any doubt about that. They're going to score a crazy amount of goals. They're going to win a crazy amount of games. They're going to beat a lot of people 8 or 9, or 4 or 5-0, shall we say, all season long. Are they better than last year? Probably not. And I think when we get on to thinking about who's going to win the league, they're right up there. Of course they are. But what a lot of teams saw last year is they're not infallible, right? It's not impossible to beat this Man City team. And I don't think anyone will look at this version of them and say they're better than last year. That's going to make it really interesting, isn't it? As teams perhaps don't have quite so much fear anymore as they face Man City.
There's still the rumour about Koulibaly coming, and if that, that's the thing is, Man City are playing the game of, we just need one more player. You need that final jigsaw piece. And then, everything changes. I think that would be a very interesting thing if Koulibaly does make it to Manchester. But yeah, I think they'll still be competitive. But I do think that, Pep's going into his final season. Does he extend his contract? Does he not extend his contract? There's always that.
I thought you knew something we didn't then.
Maybe he does.
It's that Pep 4-year plan type thing. He's still not got to the Champions League final or even close to winning it. So I think he'll definitely be focused on there.
I don't think that's the end of the spending at Man City. I think that Koulibaly will come, and there'll be another striker as well. There's no shortage of funds. They lost the league title to Liverpool last season by a mile. That's going to hurt Pep a lot. He'll want that back. And the Champions League, they just can't seem to get over the line. He probably, maybe go for that too. But I think they're going to invest heavily yet. I think they'll be right up there at the end. Man United have signed Donny van de Beek from Ajax for £39 million. Apart from that, nobody else. So I do expect... they really need a striker, don't they?
Well, I
Well,
don't
did
know.
they? That's the question.
Well, look,
yeah.
you've got Martial, you've got Rashford, yeah?
They scored a lot of
They
goals.
scored a lot of
again last
goals,
year.
but I'm just both of them rely on extreme pace and ball into the box early or ball over the top. But there's nobody there like okay, they got the kid that's in the news again, Greenwood. Yeah. But I'm talking about a fox in the box, an Aguero style player who just right place, right time, bang, poacher.
I don't know. I think Bruno Fernandes came in and obviously had such an impact on that team. It was over 10 goals he scored in half a season. He's coming in a full season now. I don't think goals are going to be the problem. I really don't. I think they're going to score like Man City. They're just going to score and they're going to keep on scoring. I think, let's see about that defence. Let's see if, Koulibaly could end up there, I suppose, as well. I mean, Man United can rival Man City for that.
If Harry Maguire ends up in Greece, you never know.
I think one of the interesting battles for Man United will be between the sticks. You know, they've got Henderson back from Sheffield United. De Gea's not had a great season last season. You know, Sheffield United have definitely reaped the benefits of Henderson last season. It could be a nice little tussle there.
I think it really could, but will you see Solskjaer be prepared to drop a goalkeeper who's earning, I don't know what the figure I last saw, £300,000 a week or something like that?
Yeah, that's a
Is
lot.
that something that he'd be prepared to do? And I don't know what his contract looks like. And how that would affect him, or maybe he will. You know, maybe there's a bit of psychology to be played. Maybe he needs to be dropped for a game or two and then to come back. I don't know, but that is a really interesting thing to watch.
Interesting indeed. Tottenham have signed Matt Doherty, who's a super fullback from Wolves for £25 million. Joe Hart's in from Burnley. Interesting. And Holberg from Southampton. And apart from that, they haven't really signed anybody else either. So you think Tottenham will spend some money too. I don't know what the financial situation there is. Jan Vertonghen's gone to Benfica. Big loss there.
I've been watching the All or Nothing Tottenham series on Amazon, and what you start to understand is the mentality around Tottenham at the moment is, you know, Pochettino was there for, I think, 5.5 seasons, and he'd really, that was his team. You know, when they got to the Champions League final, that was really the pinnacle of the Pochettino era. And when Mourinho came in, they really understood that they had to rebuild. And so there are players that needed to be turned out. You know, you're talking about Vertonghen. They kept Alderweireld instead. Wanyama's gone. I wouldn't be surprised to see some other players go. But they were also decimated by injuries last season. And actually, they have a great team. You know, you look at Sissoko, Son, Harry Kane. If Dele Alli can get anywhere near his form of a couple of years ago, they're really singing going forward. It's just whether or not they can keep it tight at the back.
It was fun watching Mourinho in that thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've become such a more of a fan, if that's even possible, of Mourinho. Just the way that he holds himself in the meetings with the team, and I can fully understand why he maybe didn't win as much with that Man United team as he did with Chelsea, because of the way that he approaches life and football. He's just so straight talking, to the point, no bullshit. I think it's a really refreshing tone when you're thinking about the prima donna footballers.
I've got absolutely no idea if it's going to work. I just love to have him. I think
yeah, exactly. Love him, hate him. Mourinho is he's box office everywhere he's been, everywhere he goes. You know, I mean, that Chelsea team with Drogba and Duff and Robin, they were super to watch, and they were fantastic. Mourinho,
the Porto team that won
exactly.
the Champions League, that was incredible.
I mean, they dismantled that team, and it went. You know, they won Premier Leagues, they won La Ligas. Yeah.
Bear in mind also, sorry, Fino, he won the Europa League with Porto. Beat Celtic in the final the year before he won the Champions League with Porto.
I remember that was because the thing is when the side that won the Champions League, you looked at them and you sort of thought, they're playing great football, and they played great football in the final when probably most people saw them. You looked at the final of the Europa League the previous year, and that was is cynical the word? I don't know, brutal, I would say, at least, you know.
I mean, I was happy.
But that was a team that would do anything, I would say, to win, and he just sort of, he has that, doesn't he? He's always had that kind of ruthlessness as well as this commitment to playing right. You know, I think he does like to see good football, but yeah, he'll do anything to win.
I actually I had a ticket for that game. I went to the game. It was my first ever Celtic game.
I was there as well, actually.
Yeah.
I was working them. So
hopefully
I
first and
didn't
last.
enjoy it all that much.
I've seen Celtic playing, I think, twice more. Fino, I'm not a self-proclaimed Celtic fan. I did see them playing in the Champions League, however. We got free tickets for the Bayern Munich VIP 3-0 to Bayern 2 or 3 seasons ago, and I've been to a lot of stadiums around the world, and this VIP section of the Allianz Arena is out of this world. Champers, chicken curry, Black Forest Gatto, you name it, they've got it.
Any prawn sandwiches?
No, I'm sure a certain Mr. Keane wouldn't approve of that. No. Anyway, guys, moving on. So, Wolves also, who are one of the teams of last season, they've got Fabio Silva in from Porto for 35 million.
Great signing.
Yeah, Matt Doherty is a big loss, but they haven't lost anybody else, and they're going to be competing, thereabouts, I think, and within and around that top 7 or 8. Definitely, I think next season they're not going away anywhere. So it'll make things a little bit more interesting. You just thought maybe if they could push and spend maybe another 2 or 3 players and for that depth, to keep them going, because they weren't that far away from the teams that were in the top 4 last season. I mean, were they not competing with Man United for 5th or 4th with the last 3 or 4 games to go? Yeah, it was quite close. So yeah, I think Wolves will be up there. Okay, so we're just going before we run into our actual predictions for who's going to finish in the top 4 and who do we think is going down. A couple of football kits have come out this week, and there's Man United get a lot of stick on this show, especially from Kevin.
What?
I'm not a Man United fan, as we know, but I mean, we're very neutral here on this show. But I've got to say, this third kit that came out that I seen today, that looks like somebody has slaughtered a poor zebra and put it on a football kit, and it's absolutely brutal. If you've seen it, just Google the Manchester United third kit for the season 2021. It's terrible.
The official term, I think, is Dazzle Camo.
Is that what it is? It's from those Dazzle ships.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that's where the inspiration came from. I think there's also a story because it's 110 years of Old Trafford. And so I can forgive them a little bit. I'd much rather we were having conversations about kits than looking at yet another all-black Man United away kit or all-white Man United away kit. At least the brands are trying to do something a bit different. Man City have gone through that whole culture of Manchester thing. Arsenal did the whole Highbury marble blood spatter scene. We were for so long had so many templates out, and it's nice to have a bit more, personalization, I suppose, for the clubs.
Kev, you've lived in Spain. You must have been down to Morocco. Have you been to Tangiers?
No, well, I have, yeah, but not Tangiers. I've been to Morocco, but not there.
Right, I've been down to Tangiers, and the first thing I noticed was these rug shops, and they're trying to sell you all these rugs straight away. And these Moroccan rugs was the first thing I thought of when I seen the Manchester City third kit. Apparently it's called Paisley, the design, but it's equally, if not as bad as the zebra effort from Old Trafford. Okay, guys. Now, this is our season review, so we're going to have a look at... I'll go first if you want, Fino. You mightn't like me at the end of this, but you mightn't like me either, Kevin. Okay, so my top 4. I've gone for Liverpool in 4th place.
Okay.
Because of the fact that they haven't signed anybody. Now, this might change, so Liverpool fans don't kill me, but I think they need a couple of players and just to freshen things up. And the fact that the second season syndrome, first time in 30 years, people will know what to expect a little bit more. Doesn't make Liverpool any worse of a team, but I think the lack of signings, plus the fact that they're over the hill and got that, that Premier League one, that will they put the foot on the pedal as much? I don't know. My 3rd place team will shock everyone, but I do think there's a lot of business to be done. I think Man United will spend a lot of money and they're going to finish 3rd. And I think with all the signings at Chelsea, they're really going to push Man City, who will, with Koulibaly and maybe another striker, will pip Chelsea to the title. That's JP's predictions. Fino, who have you got?
So, almost the polar opposite. I've got Liverpool to win the league. I think they were so dominant last season that even if they're not quite as dominant, that they'll still manage to retain the title. Maybe a bit of a shock. I've got Chelsea coming in 2nd. I think that they'll be able to get or probably the closest challenger to Liverpool over the course of a season. I just think that with the signings that they've made and the volume of signings they've made, they're going to have that strength and depth within the team. Man City, as I've said previously, I think Pep's going to go for the Champions League to the detriment of the league. So I think they're going to finish 3rd. And then I've got Man United in 4th because I think Solskjaer is doing a particularly good job. I think he's turned the tide, and he's turning the fans' opinions around on him.
Do you think fourth is going to be enough for him, or do you think he needs to show a bit more progress?
Fourth in a cup, I think, is probably okay. If he brings, if he brings in, let's say they win the Europa League again, or they win an FA Cup or something like that. The League Cup, maybe not, but I'd say fourth in a cup would definitely put them back into a positive frame of mind going into the season afterwards. But yeah, I think Liverpool, Chelsea, City and United, can't see Arsenal or Tottenham really challenging that well. I don't know. Let's see.
Interesting indeed. Kev, no prizes.
No, got no idea. No idea. I mean, you guys have given almost every variation there. So what's
well, you've got to give it a guess anyway.
I've got no idea. The one thing I'd say about it is, and this is good, right? So I think you went through this phase of like everyone being scared of Man City, as I said, and I don't think anyone is anymore. And I think you saw most of the big teams actually took points off Man City last season. I think everyone's going to beat everyone else, and I think it's going to be great. And right now, I just honestly couldn't tell you. Wolves.
You never know. But also, we've got to take into consideration as well, we don't know how long this thing with no fans will last.
Yeah.
And then, like, for example, if you're a Wolves, for example, going to Old Trafford or Anfield where it's intimidating and you might get the penalty decision, which you got a lot of last season and the season before, and which Man United have got for the last 20 years.
We'll go through the stats if you like.
Sure, no problem. But I mean, like, those grounds that were intimidating, tough to go, the fans are not there, so essentially it's a kind of a neutral ground. How long that will last, who knows? I just hope it's a really wide open Premier League, and like I know Liverpool were great last season, but I just hope it's not done with so many games to spare.
No, and I think that's it. And I as I've said before, sat here, it wasn't that Liverpool were great last year. It's just that they managed to dig out results which no one else could. I mean,
found
honestly,
a way to win.
All those 1-0, find a way to win. All those 1-goal wins or whatever. I don't think they can keep up that relentlessness, not of performance, but that relentlessness of just getting a result. I don't think there's any way anyone does that. I have a season, almost 2 seasons of doing that week in week. So no, I don't think they will. I think they're going to drop a ton more points, but everyone else is as well, and that's why I think it's all. I really do think it's impossible to predict. I think you're just plucking something out of thin air at the moment.
Is he allowed to do that, Fino? Is he allowed to?
We'll let it slide this time.
Oh, I've gone for Wolves. They're
Okay.
They're going to steam through from the pack.
Right, we'll let you away with that, but you've got to pick a couple of teams to go down. I've gone for Fulham, who are going to finish bottom of the league because, I mean, they barely got into the Premier League. Bristol City really should have beat them. They've kept Mitrovic who signed for Newcastle a couple of seasons ago. He's a presence up front, but I just think all around they don't have enough strength. I think West Brom just came up again. They barely made it too. I think they're going down, and then the team that's also going down, I'm very sorry, Fino, I think is West Ham.
Yeah, I don't blame you, to be honest. I know that sounds very classically dour Scotsman, but I've got West Ham going down. If they don't spend money, they brought in Souček, but that was a loan with a view to buy. They've not brought anybody in. We've still got the catastrophe that is Aaron Cresswell at left back at the moment. Somehow keeping Masuaku out of the team. We probably need cover in defence.
Is Cresswell that bad though?
He was so good for a time, and it's as if he's resting on his laurels. Unfortunately, I think Moyes is on a hiding to nothing. I think he did very well to keep us up. We got some great results, against Norwich, etc. The only saving grace, and this goes back to the whole no fans thing, is we play a lot of the top 6, top 8 in the early part of the season. And so, fingers crossed that you can get a couple of shock results and a couple of 3 points where, if there were fans there and we were going to, a top 4 team, you would expect to be getting a hiding. My second team is Fulham to go down. I think Scott Parker did a great job. Obviously, being a West Ham fan, a lot of fond memories of Scott Parker. I just don't think he can keep them there. He's definitely the least experienced of the 3 managers. You've got Bielsa coming in, and you've got Bilic. Both have experience of being in the top leagues. And yeah, they're still relying on Mitrovic. I think they definitely need to bring in some more reinforcements. I can't really think of a third. I think it's too tight to tell. It could be anybody. It could even be a Crystal Palace. They've brought in the guy from QPR. You just don't know. There's always that. if we were sitting here at Christmas time, we would have said Southampton were going down, and then they ended up mid-table. So
Yeah. I always like to accentuate the positive, so I don't want to spend too long on the relegation things. I think you're probably right. I think Fulham, West Brom maybe are pretty good bets. Palace, yeah, I think they've managed to sort of stay out of trouble, just about stay out of trouble the last X number of years, since almost forever. And I think maybe this time, maybe it depends a little bit on Zaha and what happens there. But I just think if I had to pick one who might be in a little bit of trouble, I think they might join the other two.
Yeah, I'd actually thought originally Sheffield United, but that could be the one season wonder. But Sheffield United, like Burnley, have this core of kind of, British, Irish players, and they really get stuck in. They're dogged, and yeah, I think they'll be okay.
I think they'll be okay. They look just so well coached, I thought, last season. It was like there was a game plan every time they played, or every time I happened to see them anyway. I didn't see that many games.
I don't see them doing what they did last season.
Maybe
last season they were definitely the surprise package. They've brought in a few players. They brought in Jack Rodwell, which I think was an interesting signing. They brought in Aaron Ramsdale from Bournemouth, the keeper that went down with them. And I do think that Henderson is a massive loss. I've talked about it before. Yeah. He was phenomenal for them. And I feel like what they're doing now is they're starting to pad their kind of core squad out. But I'm not sure if they're padding it out with the right players. I think they're padding the team out with a lot of players that are untested at Premier League level, or have been out of the loop for a while, like Rodwell. They brought in Wes Foderingham, who was the former Rangers goalkeeper. I don't know whether or not he's Premier League quality. And so, if you get an injury to your number one, you've then maybe got a championship goalkeeper in goals. Could be 3 weeks, could be 8 weeks. You're starting to then struggle.
Yeah, you mentioned Southampton before as well, and actually again, Sheffield United with the surprise package last season, maybe a little bit Wolves as well. I could see Southampton having quite a good season last season. The way they turned it around last season, they look like a team that again extremely well coached, extremely good game plan every time. Yeah, and I could see them being a sort of top 8 team next season. I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, the Wolves, with Everton, what move they brought in, they're going to be thereabouts in that top kind of 7, 8, 6, 9 bracket in around there. Southampton, Sheffield United could do it. Newcastle, even if they get another few players in, but I'll be honestly happy until the club is sold. We're just staying up. Yeah, that's all I'm after really at the minute. But that's what I think how Mike Ashley sees the club. It's a business.
Yeah.
So, put the money in so they stay up, and you get the money from the Premier League, and that's it. And then you go and buy the house of Fraser. But we also bought Ryan Fraser. So
no, but it is funny you say that, and you said before about Liverpool, your prediction of 4th, and I mentioned that I don't really mind in a way. I just want them to. I do want to see them challenge because I don't want them to be that. I would hate to think that the owners were just happy with qualifying for the Champions League every year, just keeping things ticking over. Now I would almost rather have a 1st and a 7th or something like that, even though economically that wouldn't be good. I'd rather go 1st, 7th, 1st, 8th, 1st, 9th. I wouldn't like to be in that position where you're just really happy with it ticking over in 4th.
Yeah, I think what you've seen is you've seen a team like Arsenal or Tottenham who are just happy to get into that top 4, and actually what you see is when you strive for top 4 and you don't hit it, then you end up 6th. Yeah. And you get into the Europa League, or you end up 8th and you don't make it at all. And that's the danger that you can see. I don't have that doubt with Liverpool, to be honest. I think they're, as we've talked about, they've got that succession plan running. I think they'll still be strong regardless of if they strengthen the team or not.
Has anyone looked into Boston Red Sox? Didn't they crack their curse?
Yeah.
Are you a baseball fan? But they finally beat
I've been to the stadium. I've been to Fenway Park.
And then didn't they have like a pretty shocking year after that? And then they won it again, didn't they? And then they went and had another. We're so poorly prepared here with our baseball and football analysis. We're not even googling it right now. But if I don't know, someone should have a look at that. Maybe there's something in that. I have not seen a single word written about that all summer. But maybe there's a bit of research to be done.
Invoke the spirit of the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I think we've pretty much covered everything, have we?
I think so, yeah. I mean, just looking forward to seeing some top flight football again.
Looking forward to the games, looking forward to getting a bit of football back, and a couple of teams not playing this weekend, right? So we don't have Man City or
Man United. No, we don't. No.
So I wonder if they'll be pleased to have that. They'll be pleased to have an extra week, I would have thought.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, just looking ahead to the weekend games again, you've got like Liverpool against Leeds. I mean, it's a blow not to have the fans at that one. You know, because you
Definitely.
sort of think the home fans would make a big deal there. I wonder if Leeds could just spring a surprise in that first game. You know, it's going to be hard to predict how they do. They've got their own marquee signing, of course, and of course they've got their slightly crazy coach. So,
But they're extremely well coached. Bielsa is an amazing coach. I think.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
you know, and they'll be very, very hard to beat. And I definitely think they're staying up this season, Leeds. And when the fans do, please God, come back, it will benefit Leeds more than anyone else because they've got a massive fan base. Premier League stadium, you know, I think Leeds are staying up. Just running through the fixtures. Saturday, Fulham, Arsenal, 1:30. These are Central European times. Palace against Southampton at 4 o'clock. West Ham, Newcastle, 4 o'clock. Liverpool Leeds is the evening game at 6:30. Then on Sunday, we have West Brom at home to Leicester at 3 p.m. Tottenham host Everton at 5:30. Two games on Monday night. Brighton against Chelsea and Sheffield United host Wolves, both at 9 p.m. We'll be chatting about them and everything else next Tuesday, guys. Thanks for listening. Kev, thanks for joining us.
pleasure as always.
Fino,
Yeah, thanks very much.
thanks a lot, guys. This has been the Irishman, Englishman, and Scotsman Football Podcast. See you soon. Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman, and Scotsman Football Podcast.